There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, we are live.
Hey.
Got a runner over there? Running over there?
Yeah.
Can't even talk. We just started.
It's all right. It's very festive in the penthouse tonight.
Yeah, holiday spirit.
Yeah, we're here. We're celebrating. So, whatever you guys are celebrating, come on, celebrate it with us. The Big Finish Show.
Yeah, it's an annual tradition.
It kind of is, you know, and not because it's, you know, like, oh, we don't have anything else to talk about, but we know you guys are down to the wire, you know, building little Timmy and Katie's fishing rod that you got to get done. And on top of having to, like, all the other gifts, you're going to have to, like, what they call some assembly required. And that's rod building, right? Some assembly is certainly required. And, you know, your finish can kind of make or break, you know, the deal. So life's too short to fish ugly fishing rods. So
sure.
We also want to make sure that when it comes down to the last minute and you're putting finish on it, you don't like lift that decal and completely ruin Christmas. So yeah, we're going to go over a little bit of tips and tricks, maybe a few things what not to do, show a few things. Now granted, for those that have been doing this a long time, or like 117 episodes, we might say something that you already know how to do, but you know, just bear with us, because the best part is that we have people that come to these shows, they're like, it's my first show ever, or I just got into rod building. We just got through Thanksgiving and Black Friday sales and all that, and I am sure that some people bought their first all-in-one rod kits out there. And here we are, going to try to show y'all how to put finish on.
Yeah.
What
definitely.
else? Yeah?
Well, this is the Big Finish Show 6.0. So that means we've done this show 6 times now. And like Chris said, well,
is that it?
Yeah, that's it, right? No, we do this show at the end of each year in December, and again, we've done it 6 times now. But like Chris said, we're going to cover, you know, some of the basics of, you know, thread finish and epoxies and, you know, things like that. But we're going to try to sprinkle in some aspects and tips and tricks that, you know, you guys have not seen before on the show. Mm-hmm. So even for anyone out there that's watching and has watched all 6 Big Finish episodes,
yeah,
we hope you take away some little piece of a nugget of information from this episode. So, yeah, a couple of demos that we're going to show tonight. It's not going to everything, but just a few of the demos we have. We're going to be talking about how much finish to use. That's always, you know, whether it's how much you measure from the bottles or how much you put on your decal or thread wrap. We're going to go over that. Second demo, we're going to go over dryer speeds, which is a really good one that we've talked about a few times, but not really in depth. So we're going to talk about the G2 Power Wrapper, of course. We got it front and center. Yep. We're going to show the built-in dryer and the speeds for this thing. Yep. We're also going to show you how to, quote-unquote, power finish.
Yeah.
And then we have
Don't Google that.
Yeah. We're going to show the variable speed dryer as well. And what's cool about that dryer is it goes from 0-ish, 5 RPM, all the way up to, I think, 45. Mm-hmm. So you're able to dial in.
And that one is pretty
pun
cool.
intended.
I like it. Yeah, right?
You're able to dial in that speed, which most of your you know, individual dryers or whatever you might have at home, they're going to be set to a, you know, kind of a predetermined speed, 9 RPM, 18 RPM. Unless you have the G2 wrapper itself to where you can use the foot pedal, or you have the variable speed dryer, you really don't have much leeway in dialing in that finish or the speed at which you finish. Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, the third demo, we're going to talk about tools that you use to, you know, apply finish or thread epoxy to your wraps or your decals, whether it be brushes, might be a little spatula or a couple different spatula tools that we'll show later on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, and we're going to talk about a few other different types of epoxies, or I guess permagloss isn't really an epoxy. It's more of a varnish.
It's a urethane, right?
Urethane, yes.
And it's a one part.
One part. So
It's the only one part that I like.
yes. Yeah, there's a few of the other ones can be tricky.
Yeah. And there might be one or two things said on the show tonight that you might not agree with, but that's why we're here. Yeah. So, you can get your 15 seconds of fame and tell me that I'm an idiot on live tonight if you really want to. But, I try to usually frame this stuff that, like, this is how I do it, but you can also do it like this, or you could do it like this, or whatever. But we all know why you're really here, and that's for the giveaways. So we got Hunter's credit card. We're past Black Friday, Cyber Monday, stuff like that. We've got them paid off, and we're going to do a Pro Products basic supply kit tonight as the first one. It just kind of fits with the show, right? We also did a little shopping before the end of the sales because you guys really did it. You guys really bought some stuff. So we did slide in there and snuck away a CRB vertical wall mount 4-rod dryer before those sold out. So that's the second prize for the night. And also the grand prize, we're gonna give away an RBS Pro G2 power wrapper that are currently sold out, but we expect them back in about 2 weeks?
Yeah,
okay,
right at the turn of the year.
So 2025 hits, they're gonna be back in stock. So if you haven't gotten yours, hang tight, you might win. So we did sneak one out of stock before those got sold out too. So we do have some pretty good giveaways, and we do have a little bit of housekeeping, Hunter. There's some new products. What you got?
Yeah, so we got 2 new products to go over. I'm going to start with our guide file. So pretty straightforward here. CRB guide file. If you guys, if you're tired of using little, cheap nail files you get on Amazon, or you got some that's just not holding up, check out this new CRB guide file. So for one, comes in this nice little package that you can put it back in after use and not lose it, which a lot of rod building tools tend to disappear or find their way somewhere else. So this guide file, one thing I like about it is it has this built-in handle. So, and it's not a handle that's on the grit. A lot of the cheaper, files, you're literally holding the grit, which you never want to do that. So got this nice little comfortable handle on here, and we have a lot of space here for our grit. You're not dealing with, a half inch or an inch of grit. You got several inches here to, it's going to take a long time to wear out this guide file. So going to be really durable over time. And if you guys are familiar with, any brand, I don't care, you guys can argue, all brands, in my opinion, need a little bit of TLC on the guide feet. Yeah. There are very few, if any, that come off the factory line, quote unquote, good to go or good to wrap. Yeah. Always prep your feet. I don't care how good or how well you think they're prepped. It never hurts to polish them up or hit them a couple times with a file. Yep. Or in this case, our CRB guide file. So that's one new product. You can check it out on the website. It is available for purchase now. All right, get that back in there.
I'm going to kind of start mixing some finishes.
Yeah, go for it.
Talk about that last.
All right, and our other new products. Now, we've talked about this on the show. If you will, can you pass me one of those rods?
Oh, yeah.
So, microwave guides. Everyone, if you're a rod builder, has heard of microwave guides. Hopefully, you've used them by now. In the past, we've always sold these as, and they've come from American Tackle, as complete sets for the most part.
Haven't they won some awards before?
They've won a lot of awards.
I think so.
I want to say, man, probably going on 13, 14, 12, 13, something like that. Yeah. Lots of awards.
Man, I tell you, the people that have that patent's probably just loving it, aren't they?
So, anyway, so what we've done is we now introduced individual microwave guides. So instead of buying the set and, being forced to use the running guides or the transition guide that's in that set, now you can buy this guide right here, what we refer to as the stripping guide, the first guide on the rod, up from the butt section, as the stripping guide. You can buy these individual guides by themselves. You can also buy the transition guide by itself if you want to go down that path, but really the big ticket here is being able to purchase these individual microwave guides themselves. Whether it's the original 20 and 6 configuration or the casting variation, or the multiple other different frame styles that American Tackle has in these microwave guides, they are now all individually available for purchase. So, you know, if you want to, use different transition guide or use different running guides, you're certainly welcome to do that, because now you can buy this guide by itself. So
I actually think the transition guide, are those available too, single?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I said. You listening over there?
I was mixing finish.
I
I'm sorry.
know, I'm just kidding.
I'm looking at one of these, it's like I'm trying to read a syringe to make sure that I get my finish right.
Yeah.
And
But you are correct.
I wasn't listening.
You can get the stripping guide, you can get the transition guide, and of course the running guides have
They're
always...
just runners, yeah.
They're just runners, but
Yeah.
now you don't have to bite on the whole set. You can get just that one guide and make
Well,
your own set at home.
And I think not only is it nice if you just like want to make your own set, but it's great because, God forbid, you have a boo-boo, right?
Mm.
And you have to do a repair, right? And if you got to do a repair and you need a new guide, you really don't, like, adding insult to injury of having to buy the entire set when, like, you stepped on the one microwave guide,
Right.
is just,
Yeah.
that's just extra, So now we got it.
Now you're good. Yeah.
Now you are good.
Yeah. Now, if you guys are shopping on the website, just as a heads up, we purposefully separated the individual stripping microwave guides away from the sets. So if you're looking on the product page for the set, you probably will not find the individual microwave guide. That's on a different product page. Again, we did this purposely to try to not cause confusion and make sure the pricing on the pages looks accurate and everything. So just a heads up there, if you are shopping or you're looking for these guides on the website, trust me, they are there. They're not on the page with the rest of the sets. They're on separate pages. So just a heads up there.
Yeah, what he said.
All right, what you got?
If you would, maybe start mixing for me.
Sure.
So the couple stir sticks in here in this bag, or that. Do we want to talk about rod finish before we get into the game, or do we just want to? We'll just go right in. So I'll talk about it a little bit.
Go for it.
There are a couple different manufacturers and brands and types of rod finish. I'm not going to bore you with all of it because there's just not a whole heck of a lot to talk about, except you are going to have, when you see the term high build, or you see the term low build, or you see the term medium build, that is going to be the way that they react. You have a different viscosity, okay? So a low build finish is going to be thinner. It's going to be more watery. When you have a high build, the high build is going to be thicker. It's also going to set up faster. You're going to have a little bit less of a working time with it. Now, you can thin the epoxy, and we've been down this road, and I love, that's a sticking point with some people, right? Thinning epoxy. We talked about it last year, and coming directly from the people at FlexCoat, we have used both acetone and denatured alcohol. Sometimes if you're in the group, like the Rod Builder, Mudhole Live Rod Builders Workshop group, it's got probably, 40,000 members now, or some just astronomical amount. It's a great group. You, as a new person that's in there, if you ever see somebody put DNA and talk about, that's denatured alcohol. So they use DNA for short for denatured alcohol. So if you do happen to either want to thin it, need to thin it, things like that, and I know people say don't ever use denatured alcohol. We've done it a lot. FlexCoat also says you can do it. Or you can use acetone. And most of the time, the recommendation is like a 15 to 1. So that translates out to, if we're doing 3 cc's of each, because these are 2-part epoxies. You're doing 3 cc's of each. You're going to do anywhere from like an actual drop out of an eyedropper. You can watch last year's finish show. We talked about this, and I gave you measurements and everything. You know, you're going to be somewhere in like 3 to 6 drops, 4 drops out of an eyedropper. You can also just do it right off of the end of, you know, a mixing stick of denatured alcohol or acetone. I mix the epoxy first, then I come in and thin it, and then I go to the rod blank. Okay? So again, I'm sure we can have some arguments in the comment section, but if you do need to thin it, knock yourself out. But remember, there is a high build finish. This is actually the new Ultra V formula from FlexCoat. Says that it resists yellowing better and resists UV and stuff better. So that's the new Ultra V. It's pretty thick. I'm not going to lie to you. It is, I'm okay with it. I don't mind a high build finish because I also at times will thin it, but I also use heat a lot during my finish application. And of course, you can also say like, do or don't use heat. I use heat. I always use heat, and it's okay. So you also have Pro Coat, which, let me move it out behind the nutcracker here. So this is Pro Coat, and this is a medium build finish, okay? Pro Coat has their regular finish, which is technically medium, and then they have a high build. The high build and the FlexCoat high build is pretty close together, pretty high, pretty thick. You do kind of have to be aware of that because you might run out of time if you're building a rod that has a few guides or you're not super quick at working with, which is okay. But just be aware that it's going to get shorter working times with high builds. And then, of course, there are light builds. Pro Coat's got a light, FlexCoat's got a light. And then for the 1-part, nothing gets thinner than permagloss. But again, this is not a 2-part epoxy. This is a 1-part urethane rod finish, and it will light you up. So do not use this inside in a confined space. Have good ventilation. Now this is honestly with all epoxies. You really don't want to be standing over this. Don't do this in a coat closet at the house where you're constantly breathing in fumes from any of these epoxies. But this stuff right here will just, it'll clear the room. So don't do that. Another trick, when you do this, come off of the close-up view there. Permagloss is a humidity air cured. It is not a 2-part chemical reaction type of a cure. So what can happen is when you unscrew this, the top can get like a skin on it because it will start curing. It's almost like if you open a bottle of wine and you put the cork back on, and now there's air in it and it's going to start, you know, oxidizing the wine. So the same thing here is you're going to get a skin on it. So 2 things. Take it, lock the top back tight. Promise we're going to make it through. And turn it upside down. When you store it upside down, you're going to, if you skin it, it'll skin this side. So then you turn it over, open it, use it, turn it back over, things like that. I have also heard of people putting it like in the refrigerator to store it. I store it upside down. I haven't had an issue, but if you're going to store it for a long time, this stuff is probably the only like true non-yellowing because all 2-part epoxies yellow. You can argue in the comments about who's better than the other one about yellowing or non-yellowing. That is going to be probably the non-yellowingest. It's just not going to do it. But keep in mind, you're going to have to add like 10 coats of this.
It's very, very
And when I
thin.
mean it's water, it is water. So if you've ever used like spar varnish or like urethane to, you know, put on a coffee table or something, like that's what that is pretty much. So it's water. So you're going to have to use a lot of it to get the finish. Oh, I forgot this one. This is another one we're using as well. Gen 4. Lot of cheering for Gen 4 for sure. Easy to work with. People say it's better at bubbles. I think it's I mean, I like it, but I like all of them. I kind of use them all intermittently. And, you know, I don't want to be that guy here and say this, but if your finish is not curing, it's you, my friend. It's not the finish. Unless there's a bad batch where like you use 2 resins or 2 hardeners or whatever. All these finishes work from all the major brands, the ones we got here, Pro Coat, Gen 4, Flex Coat, they all work. Some have their own little quirks, but if you measure them using, you see, all of these have syringes, okay? And all of them have these cool little BCSI caps, okay? Take note of this. These are called BCSI is the part number. One is a 20, one is a 24. Well, these are both 20s, but they come in 20, and then they come in 24, which is a larger size of this. For example, the small size, this 20, goes in the little Flex Coat bottles and the little Pro Coat bottles. Every other finish bottle that is like these 2 ounces and the 4 ounces, okay, until you get up to like the gallon ones. We don't have one that fits in like a milk jug, but which we probably should. That would be cool. Anyway, so these bottles sizes, these are all BCSI 24s. These are the 20s. Get these. I promise you, you're going to love it because we just leave the syringes in there. And no, you don't have to clean the syringes. I see that question so much. But trust me, they all work. It's either you didn't mix it right or it's too cold in the room. That's really all it is. So trust me, they all work. Get you a little bit of all of them. You'll find the one that you like the best. Like I said, I am a 1-coat person, but I am also not building some of just the pure artwork that I see you guys build. I commend you for some of the incredible work I see y'all do, okay? I usually am using 1 thread color. I'm building a fishing rod, and I'm putting it in the hands of a client to go fishing, or I'm fishing it. I'm putting finish on it, and we're just going fishing, okay? So, but if you want to use high build and do 1 coat, if you want to use multiple coats, whatever. But please experiment with it. Everybody has an opinion. I'm sure there's even, you know, some in here. In the workshop group, there's tons of opinions. And nobody's really wrong. But I promise you, you're going to find a finish that you like the best. All right. So enough of all that. I'm going to get down off my stump. And what were we talking about?
Thread finish.
How much thread finish? Okay, so you mixed it. It's probably already cured from me running my mouth. All right, what can happen? Pull that belt off for me real quick. Okay, so I have a decal, and I put thread over the decal sometimes. And the reason that I do that is because it will help lock that decal down really, really tightly. So you're going to get some like decal tips on the show. Help me spin that a little quicker. Thank you. We're going to get, the reason that I'm pulling this off and not cutting it is because I don't want to cut the decal. So you're going to get some decal tips. Now, really, really be careful when you're putting finish over a decal for a couple reasons, all right? If you put too much heat, if you're a heat person, I'm a heat person, all right? If you put too much heat, I probably should have used D on this one.
Probably. Maybe a little bit less thread.
Yeah, right? Well, I
You really got that decal locked down.
Well, I don't want it to come up.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple decal tips with thread finish. Be careful how much you put on it. Be careful how much heat you use. And don't use what I call hot thread finish. Hot thread finish is right when you mix it, it starts the chemical reaction. And you can actually kind of feel it. It gets warm, okay? All the 2-part epoxies do it. If you mix that thread finish and you don't let it sit for 8 to 10, 15 minutes before you put it on, the chemical reaction is actually going to act as like an adhesive remover on your decal. It's really frustrating because so many times the decal is like the last thing that everybody does. And then you just like ruin the rod because you ruin the decal. And then you have to go back and fix it, which we're going to do another decal show here soon. But Hunter's got the epoxy mixed up. We have our decal here on the rod. And you can see it, it's kind of like got a pattern in it from the thread, but it doesn't matter because the finish is going to take that out. Real quick, Justin, I need you down here on Zoom. I take a brush. This is the quarter inch?
Quarter inch.
Yellow quarter inch, all right? Take the yellow quarter inch. You can see sometimes you get some flyaways there, like this. Like the ladies complain about their hair and the humidity, right? Hunter complains about it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I take and I put the brush down and I cut it with a really sharp razor blade. And typically I cut about a quarter of the length off, okay? So I will add sometimes a little bit of an angle. You kind of see a little angle there. Sometimes I'll add an angle. You can also, and it's a very sharp angle and not a, you know, oh, well, the bristles are just bad angle. Or sometimes I'll just make it flat like that. But I want it shorter because now the bristles are not as easy to flex, if you will, right? So we trim our brush. I also come back up here and I'll pull out some flyaways because what you don't want to do is when you press the brush to the blank, you don't want it to go like this. Because when it goes like this, it's going to, all this is going to push finish and it's going to create waves and stuff. So when you push it, you just want it to kind of stay together and react, right? So we're going to put finish on this.
Built back on.
Switch me over to my the dryer, sir. Now, a quick tip, if you are a foil dish person like I am, what are these, foil -3, I think?
Yes, foil D-3.
Foil D-3, okay. So you take your finish, okay, foil dish, pour your finish in there. Hunter did pretty darn good with the bubble free.
Is that the one? Did you grab mine?
What do you mean? Yeah.
Because there's one right here.
Yeah, but that was not fit.
Okay.
You didn't mix that one.
This one with a stick in it.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. It's the first time. It's the 6th time. All right, so now we have the finish in here. You can see it kind of going around. This will help you remove bubbles because it will spread the bubbles out. But like I said, Hunter did a really good job. Now, I know it is super tempting to heat this up once it's already mixed. And you can do that, and it will, like, if you're losing time and it's already been like setting up, you can hit it with some heat and it will kind of thin it, but briefly. But as you heat it in this state, already mixed, it's going to come back to shorten the working time. So every time you do it, it's going to thin it, but then it's going to come back together a little bit quicker because you're speeding up that chemical reaction.
And just by putting it in that foil dish, you're also speeding it up. It's not just the, you know.
No, you're lengthening it. If
I'm
you
sorry.
Put it in here.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, sorry.
Right. So you're lengthening the working time here because you're spreading the epoxy out, so you're kind of dissipating the heat out.
Yeah, so you keep it in this cup,
yes,
it is going to heat up very quickly.
because it's all piled on top of one another. The same thing happens with Pro Paste. If you take Pro Paste and you mix it up, and it's in this like really nice mound, like a big anthill, and you leave it there for a little too long while you're working, the center core, you'll go to like move it and scrape it because the heat generated, it will start to cure from the inside out. So if you do that, take it and you can spread it out over the cardboard and you got a little more working time.
Yep.
Okay. What ends up happening here is people start piling epoxy on. And I'm going to try to go through this in a what not to do. So everybody bear with me as I pile some epoxy on here. Now, for those that are just learning to work with epoxy, one of the best things that you can do is cut your edges. So when I am adding finish, it just seems to work out. I put my I make a fist and I put it on the table. Okay? And then I take this hand and I put the base of my hand on top of my fist. And it seems to like make it almost perfect height. Now, if you are like you like toys and tools and stuff, we also came up with the hand and tool rest. Okay? So this is very heavy duty. It is extraordinarily stable, and T-bolts in the bottom of it right here, they snap right into the center track. The best thing though too is these slide. So what happens is when those are in the center track, you can actually pivot this back and forth, okay? And it's perfect height so that you don't have to do what I'm doing there. So that is a really great tool. They're in stock. I saw them. But back to adding finish for a beginner. Cut an edge if you're working over long distances. Okay? This is going to be a long distance because it's a big, long decal. And yes, before you fry me on live, this decal is cut way longer than it should have been. Okay? Much longer. You see the edges of the decal are way out here and the letters are way in here. I did that because I want to show over a long working span. And also, don't do that. Cut the decal as short as possible, okay? Now you notice I have like a little bit of a kind of a wave here in it. Can you switch me over to power?
Sure.
Go fast, go fast.
I know. There we go. Bing.
I don't know where I'm at. Okay. So I have it, what am I at, 105? Hang on, let me turn this thing down a little. So what you can do is you can, when I finish under speed, and I know we're going to get to this a little bit later, I want to be able to have the pedal completely mashed to the floor, and then I adjust my speed. The reason that I do that is because it's really hard to like feather your foot. And if you got this thing turned up, I mean, it will spin it. So be careful. I will mash my foot all the way to the floor, and then I will turn it on the machine where I want it. And if you notice, I can take and now push this finish around, right? And always have your dish underneath, right there in the center. I know you can't see it, but my dish right here is right under the center because I can easily just push that finish right off. But come back out here to the edge, and most of the time I will start inside of my edge and work the edge out so that I have constant pressure on the blank and stop. See how sharp that edge is there? Much sharper than that motor is it a 9?
4?
No. The drying motor. I think it's a 9 RPM.
Yeah.
So the drying motor in your RBS Pro is a 9. And now we've got it turned up to whatever it's running at now. I have no idea. But you can see how quickly I can manipulate the finish out, okay? And again, I'm going to add some finish out here near the end, okay? And then I'm going to put the brush down and slide out. Do it again. Push the brush down and slide out. The reason I say that is, see how sharp those lines are. If you try to, on a moving rod blank, if you take your brush and just come out here like this and go, I'm going to cut a line, you're still going to get a wobble. And you can see it right there. So come inside where your finish is going to be, press down and slide out. Okay, and we can even slide all the way back out here to where I was making that boo-boo. All right? We can just incorporate that in. This is much longer. This finish is much longer than you would ever need to do with this decal. But again, I did that on purpose. Go back to the slow speed for me, please. Because again, we try to show you guys like what not to do, right? In addition to what we are doing. So, very thin coat of finish over a decal. I'm going to add more than needs to be as it's like kind of curing now. There is and this is a major like problem with a lot of new rod builders, and honestly everybody, when they, we all have our bad days, right? If you put too much rod finish over a decal, and I understand that it is a little bit hard to see at home. Something you have to be aware of over a decal especially. So let me rotate that. Okay, I'm going to let you guys see this from the other side and see if we can do it. Something you have to be aware of. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to say this. So the rod blank is made out of graphite, carbon, fiberglass, whatever. It has a finish on it. Some rod blanks are painted. Some have paint with a clear coat. Some are unsanded. Some, you have a lot of different finishes on your rod blank. The decal is vinyl, okay? And I don't know the science behind this. I can't give you science behind it. It's just something that I have seen over years and years of doing this. Your rod finish is a self-leveling rod finish. They all are. We're super happy to have that. What happens is your rod finish travels over the face of the rod blank and the vinyl decal differently. Over different mediums, right? I'm sure that, like, when you have when they measure like water tension and different tensions, what's going to happen is, ooh, we got a gnat. We better get that rod tin out. Okay, what's going to happen is as it levels, you can watch it kind of spin and it sags. That's what we were creating, these sags in it. It's going to go over the decal and then hit the rod blank and either slow down or speed up. And you can kind of see here, I think we even have like a white background to like really see it. Let's see if I can use this thing. Because I know like my shirt is solid. See how bad that looks? Okay, so we have a lot of like humps, okay? This is what too much rod finish looks like, all right? And I'm purposely, most of the time I'm not long-winded on purpose, but I'm purposely long-winded during this segment because if you notice, it's not getting much better, okay? You got me a piece of paper there, brother? I appreciate you. Thank you. Make sure that we got one with serial numbers and social security numbers on it. Credit card numbers, all that stuff. Okay. You notice it's real humpity bumpity. It looks terrible. Just part of it. There's too much rod finish on this. And I'm looking at it also seeing highs and low spots on the decal. You can like see the edge of the decal like an edge of the paper. So you have to be very careful if you're going to use heat to get rid of this finish. Okay? Personally, what I would do if you got into this position and you have a decal, I am going to go back to speed, please. And if we stop it, we can let it and it'll just drip right off. But we're going to try to make the least amount of mess that we possibly can. Okay? So I'm going to have my dish down here and I'm going to start just like I was doing earlier. And I'm going to take finish off like that. Okay? I'm going to slide my dish over a little bit. And I'm going to start here and come back and take some off. And you can see it's really wanting to set up. It's much more like, it's thicker than it was before. Now when I get to this end, I'm not going to start out here and go this way. I'm going to start here and kind of go this way. And take some off. All right. Now I'm at a little bit better spot in terms of levelness. See that? Not nearly the waves that we had before. Okay? I am going to give that a little bit of time because what I don't want to do is I don't want it to be hot finish as we talked about earlier, but I can come back in and I can add a little bit of heat without creating an issue. And if I need to smooth it out or to pull a little bit more finish off, I can. But if this is, let's say that this is in the middle of a split grip, okay? We have a fighting butt down here, and we have another butt down here, or the rear grip here. If I had properly cut my decal, the decal is right dead in the center, right? So if I'm getting too much finish built over it and I want to add heat, I can take and push the bulk of the finish off of the decal, heat it, and get it off. If this whole thing was vinyl, and it doesn't need to be, and now I'm heating it, and you heat it too much, you have a risk of pulling and lifting that decal. So keep that in mind as a tip too. Cut your decals as small as you possibly can, even if you're working over a large area. Now, I know we've all talked about it, and I know that I catch a lot of hell for this, but here is the alcohol burner, right? Using the alcohol burner, I am just under the rod blank. I'm not holding it in one place, and I'm just wafting it, okay? This is going to help you get out bubbles, bumpy spots, whatever, right? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Mysterious off-camera person. Now, since I'm off the decal, I'm adding a little more heat. I don't know if you can really see it. There's a spot here on the end that's being a little stubborn. I can add more heat out here because I'm off the decal. Okay? So we're going to come back in and keep adding a little bit of heat. Now, if you don't want to use this, understandable. You're somebody that likes toys, like myself, you can use this guy. All right? I recommend using the quick fire trigger one. Okay? There's a couple different ones. There's one that you turn the gas on and then you come up here and go. This one I like because, God forbid something happens, when you let this go, it's off. So it's on, it's off. As soon as you let it go. If you have some of the ones that you turn it on, like your propane tank on the grill, and something happens and the gas is still running, it might actually be more dangerous than the alcohol burner. That's possible to some of y'all. Plus, this one has a lock on it for those that need it, right? So you can lock this little button. You can lock the old go switch here, or you can unlock it. Now, this also, you need to be very careful, as it's named a torch for a reason, okay? So do not come up to this thing and hammer, right? And if you really want to know what this is like and learn your distances, please learn your distances. This would be a bad move, okay? We're not going to do that. This, you could probably feel the heat. Okay, that's not too bad. So that's where we want to be on a rod blank. You don't want to be right on it for any extended period of time. You can get a little closer and a little farther away as you learn how to do this. But please be careful with this thing. Don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. But please.
Don't melt your rod blank.
Yes. But remember, it still is a torch. Okay. And as you add heat, if you are noticing that you're still having issues, set it aside. I lock the go button. If you notice, okay, we still have a problem here and I can't figure it out. If you really need like a kind of a full reset, put your finish dish down. Who's running that end? All right, so put your finish dish back down. And now that this has thinned itself a little bit from the heat, walk your finish back off of it, right? Capture it, take it off, okay? Just capture the finish and just go right down to pure bare minimum finish that you can get. And then you don't have to worry about coming back the next day and having a huge mess on your hands that you're going to have to clean up. All now you'll be left with is one thin layer of finish, right, to deal with. So that layer of finish is really, really nice. Take this. Nice and thin, and you can be like, all right, maybe I'm not a one coat finish person over a decal. You can put it back on the, what you call it. And just cut your losses there. But do not go to bed and go, it's probably just going to level itself out. Because it probably won't. And that's with every single finish. So there you go.
Well done. I mean, yeah, and especially as a new rod builder, if you're, say, less than, three or five rods, thin coats are your best friend. I mean, I can't say that more than enough times. If you're a new rod builder and you haven't built several rods and you're having, epoxy as your arch nemesis, thin coats. Yeah. And, you can use high build and do multiple thin coats. There's nothing wrong with that. But I really want to stress as a new builder, if you're struggling with thread finish, try multiple thin coats instead of one coat. Mm-hmm. And when I say thin, like when you think it's thin, take more off. Like
this, exactly, and that's a great point. This is so thin that I can physically make out the edges of the decal. Like you can see them so clear. There is that little of finish. And it looks like that there's finish on there. It's perfectly level coated. When you look at it there, you almost like can't tell it even has finish on it. Mm-hmm. And I can see the edges of the decal. That's how thin we're talking. Because remember, now when you come back and add that second finish, it's going over all of the same medium, right? You're putting finish on finish. You're not going to be putting finish on vinyl and graphite at the same time, and it's going to be pulling and fighting each other like that, okay? We all know how I feel about color preserver. I'm not a fan. I don't like it. It is what it is. But sometimes putting color preserver down for people that are learning and are new at this or are just comfortable with it because it does flat out work. Put color preserver over a decal, make sure it's nice and dry, put a couple coats, and then you're going to be adding finish over color preserver, and you're not going to get kind of the weird draggy, saggy spots with it going on the vinyl, off the vinyl, on the graphite, off the graphite. I'm okay with color preserver over like decorative stuff that you need it because it has like a coating on the thread or maybe over a decal. I don't like it on guide wraps. We're going to show you why. But you can use color preserver, or if you like permagloss, I don't like it over a decal. Be real careful with it. Yeah. I'm talking like super careful with it because that stuff is so thin, it will have a pretty good effect of pulling that up.
Yep.
So,
cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
How about a giveaway?
Yeah, how about a giveaway?
Let's do our first giveaway of the night.
I'm going to look at questions here. I'm sure
right.
I can only imagine what kind of...
Oh, I'm sure we got some good ones. All right, so let's do our first giveaway of the night. We're going to do a Pro Products Basic Supply Kit. So you're going to get some Pro Coat, some brushes, mixing sticks, cups, all the good stuff that you need to build a fishing rod with,
yes.
supply-wise, that is.
Yes.
All right, let's run the giveaway. And as usual, we're going to do first name and then last initial after we announce the first name.
Somebody asked about a fisheye to see if I could try to put some like oil.
Robert T. All right,
Ooh.
Robert T. Stand by for that last name. T. What could T be? Oh, man.
Oh, I hope it's like 13 consonants.
Robert T. Stand by. We'll get that last name confirmed. I'm going to try to replicate. Okay, here we go. Teparo? Robert Teparo?
All right.
I think I'm pretty close on that one.
Yeah,
We'll
you
see.
know,
We'll
it's
see.
all right.
And if you have not yet entered the giveaway, the guys will drop a link in the chat. Sign up for the giveaway. It is open until the very last giveaway of the show. So we still have the second and third giveaways to do. You can still enter it if you have not yet. So be sure to sign up for those giveaways. And if you are a winner, Mr. Robert, you will need to email live@mudhole.com, live@mudhole.com. Get in touch with Mr. Chris here to claim your prize, which is going to be that basic supply kit from Pro Products.
Yep. Trying to see if I can
Create a fisheye.
make it fisheye. I try to put like a really just fingerprint on it, you know.
I can kind of see it.
Yeah. We'll have to come back to this. I need to answer some questions. All right. Yeah. So anyway, Carlos, I'm gonna try to get you a fisheye here. Let's see. This is a great question, Robert. Hang on. Sorry. It's like this thing isn't. This is fun. It's like it's not.
It doesn't want you to pick that question.
No, it doesn't, does it? It's the one that said, did you ever lay a base coat of clear and then the decal and then a second coat? It's like it's, have you ever?
What's that razor blade?
Yeah. Does that come off?
Yeah. Let's see.
Watch out with this thing. All right, so the question is, putting down finish, putting a decal, and then adding more finish. Yes, you can, and it's awesome. It even makes it look like it's floating. If you have certain rod blanks that are unsanded and they look like they're ribbed, right? Like Scott Fly Rod does this a lot. Is Cashin unsanded?
Yes. Well, not all. I think
Not
so.
all,
Yeah.
but some.
Yeah.
Some of Cashins are unsanded. If you're going to put a decal on that, you got to put finish. So put a really thin layer of finish and make sure you get it perfectly straight and level, because you can't put a decal on unsanded. It's, too wavy. But that's the way to do that. Yeah, do that, because it's great. It really is good. All right, let's see. We got somebody from Brazil. Yeah, sweet. Let's see. Michael said, I've been heating my finish before I apply it, and also after everything is coated, it seems to lay flatter and dry faster. Absolutely. You're
definitely dry
speeding
faster.
up the chemical reaction
Yeah.
for sure. Now, again, it's not wrong. It's just you got to be prepared to understand what you're causing there. And then after you mix it, if you heat it, you're speeding up the chemical reaction. And then, of course, once it's here on the rod, you're going to speed it up again, which is fine. You just got to then understand, I don't want to see in the comments being like, my finish is curing so fast, and I don't know. I'm not saying you will, but seems like you got it down. Michael, I would stay with what you're doing because it sounds like it works, and I have done it as well. So yeah, you're good. Let's see. John said, I just started, and I've watched at least 25 of the episodes and recently got the ice fishing kit.
Nice.
So John, that's awesome. Great to hear that. Fat Boy Angler coming out of YouTube. Are you going to show how to polish the epoxy after it's cured? Tonight, we're not going to sand it. You absolutely can. Most of the time, I don't want to say that it's necessary, because it's not by any stretch. But if there's ever a time that's really nice to sand the epoxy and then add a final coat, ultra thin coat, it is over decals or over long wraps, because the longer distance you're laying epoxy, the tougher it is to get it perfectly flat. But remember, you do have to make sure that that epoxy is completely cured out. So I know a lot of people have some issues with things being tacky and whatnot. Your epoxy has to be rock hard cured before you hit that thing with sandpaper. But it is pretty cool because it does make an incredible finish on it once you do that. Joe Archer 71, loving his CRB Pro Power Wrapper that he brought on Friday. Off-topic question. No, this is pretty on topic. Are the CRB silicone snap-in winding checks being discontinued? Everything's on topic.
Put me on the spot there.
Yeah. Are they though?
I don't think so. We
Or
might
we
have
just-
discontinued select sizes and or colors.
Yeah.
But I want to say they're still some are active.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I remembered a handful of shows ago, I watched you guys talked about drying temperature. I think you said it needed to be 72. My house is usually about 68 to 70 this time of year. Brandon, I live in South Florida. Rarely, especially at night, is my house 72. It's usually 70. I don't have any curing issues at my house at 70. So I'm sure you're going to be fine as long as it's mixed properly. And I will say one more thing that gets me in hot water sometimes. These are meant to be measured by volume, not by weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you can't measure it by weight and get excellent results. I've seen people do it. I've seen them send me videos and go, here, I'm proving you wrong, all that. Great. Happy for you. They're meant to be measured by volume. I'll leave it at that. All right. We need to go to, what are we doing next?
Dryer speeds?
Dryer speed. So this is gone. This demo and stuff went a lot longer than we had probably thought. But you're going to see, I showed you kind of dryer speed there. So I have no idea when we run it in the pedal and it's going, I have no idea how fast I'm turning it. I would guess, and the meter on your RBS Pro is not, that's not RPMs, okay? The DCRDS is
Up to 45.
up to 45. I'm gonna put this thing back in.
15 to 45.
And I would venture to say, I'm at twice to 2.5 times that fast.
At least.
So this is, did we drop? Oh, I dropped this one. That's my fault. I dropped this one earlier when we were moving. So this one has a dial switch on the back, okay? And that's why it's here, because, you know, Hunter's taking this one. Well, this was a demo, and then I dropped it. So. The dial on the back goes from, what did you say, like 3 or 5 RPMs? I'm talking like...
It shows 15 on the back, but I think it goes a little bit lower.
That is slow.
Yeah.
Like real slow.
It's probably between 5 and 10.
Oh yeah, 15 to 45. Yeah. You dial it up, and it's 45, okay? So 2.5 times, maybe 3 times. Yeah, look how short that clip is. That was when we were testing stuff. So yeah, probably 2.5 times. So I'm probably at 120, 130-ish.
Yeah.
When I was doing it there.
If not, I'd say probably quite a bit faster than that.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we'll get a little.
I'd say like probably 500 to 1,000. I'd say you're cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I have no idea.
I don't
But
know. Just 100.
it's getting it.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty quick.
Anyway, what I will say is don't turn this thing to maximum and mash that pedal, because that's
about
too fast.
6,000. No,
Yeah,
it's
I was
up
gonna
there.
say that's what we're turning
It's
grips
up
with.
there.
Yep. See, Bill Church is in there. I use a digital scale. Bill, if it's working for you, I love it. So this is 9. what you're looking at right here, 9 RPMs. And it's funny because when you finish it like fast, this is like, holy cow, this is painful. This is like painful to look at. But you can finish at 9, finish at 18. The standard dryers and such, like this one, this is my like favorite one because it has the clutch in it. And I did not drop this one, honey. That one's also probably like 4 years old.
Probably.
All right. So this is a 9, okay? The reason that I like this one is if I grab the chuck, it still spins, right? So we have a slip clutch in here, right? Some of y'all might not know this. I feel like that it's in the description, but I don't know if it is or not. There is a flathead screw in there, in the middle, right? That connects the rubber chuck to the slip clutch. You can adjust the tension on that screw to like, you know, it's not going to pick this up. I could tighten it to where like you really got to hang on to it. So every now and then we'll get people that comment and say, oh, I can't use my slip clutch dryer on like an offshore rod because the rod's too heavy and it makes it slip. Well, you can, but trust me, you can tighten it with that. This one I like. To be honest with you, the 9 and the 18, where did that even come from? Do we know where that came from?
Could not tell you, to be honest. I think that goes back quite a while.
Because I feel like even some of the really old flex coat stuff I've seen was like 8 or 9 or 10. Or...
Yeah, maybe that's just the generic RPMs that most low-speed drying motors come in.
Now, I can tell a difference when you're standing here between 9 and 18.
Of course, yeah.
But I wish I had a better answer for those at home because so many people say like, which one should I buy? Should I buy the 9 or should I buy the 18?
You're splitting hairs.
It's like they're so slow that it's like,
yeah. To really get the best attributes out of a higher finishing motor or higher speed motor, you got to go above 18. You got to go up to either the DCRDS variable speed where you get that 45 RPM or even like in the 30 range, or you need to have an RBS G2 to where, not that you're going to be using the built-in drying motors, but you can use the wrapping motor to power finish with, or to apply finish under power. The difference between a 9 and 18, to me, there's really not a lot of advantage to one or the other.
And I would, this is a name for Hunter. I just put your question up there, V. Do you think 38 RPM is too much? It's not even close to being too much.
No.
Promise you. 38, when you have the DCRDS turned up to 45, you really start to feel like, all right, now we're getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 9 and the 18, they're great. They're the ones I have at the house. I don't do like power finishing a lot, but I also don't have a lot of room in my mansion in South Florida that I live in. Kidding, because it's tiny. The 9 or 18 is like, I think I have like both. Like when you look at it, you're kind of like, is that,
Like you said, you can tell the difference in the speed. It's not that. It's more of, the outcome that you're going to get when you finish on either or of those. It's about the same. Yeah. Really, no, either of those has a performance bonus.
Yeah, and a question just came in. Is there any bonus to drying at higher speed? No.
No.
It makes no difference because you really need to get your finish like perfectly level before you go, all right, I'm going to bed. Like when you walk away from that thing and it's turning and drying, if it's not perfect, you're not just going to magically wake up and it's going to be perfect. So no, you do not need to like set this at 200 RPMs and then take and put a brick on the pedal and go to bed. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. Just let it dry at whatever. Marla asks, Is RPM too low? Other epoxy craft motors are at 5. There is also not too slow. As long as it's moving,
Right.
you're okay. Now, Hunter's dad, Uncle Bob, you guys have seen Bob around. Bob has finished back in the day. This is like before electricity. You could take a rod, get your finish right, and not even have it in a rod dryer, and turn it a quarter turn, like, every 90 seconds, every 5 minutes, whatever. Like, it just needs to be turning. It doesn't need to be at 4, 2.5, 5. There's really no too slow or too fast. Well, there's a too fast.
There's definitely a too fast.
I could crank this thing up.
Pulling it off.
Yeah, exactly. But no, you're going to be fine. As long as it's turning, it's got to turn. As if it quits turning, it's going to sag and drip right off. And it's
Dry that way.
Yeah, we've all woken up to like, you walk in the kitchen in the morning and go, sweet.
Yeah.
How did that
If
happen?
your power flickered in the middle of the night or
Something.
just cut off for a second and
Something.
you hate to come back and see that.
Yep. Harry, this is a really good point too. He said, started with a 9 and then I switched to an 18. I really like the 18. I agree with you. That also made me think some people that don't have a power wrapper are putting finish on with a DC RDS, cranking it up to 45, 48, putting finish on, and then they take it off of that machine and put it in the 9 that they got with their all-in-one rod kit 8 years ago.
Yep.
And then just let it dry in the 9. If you need to do like multiple, well, you can let it dry at 45 and you can turn down the DC RDS, but so often people are using multiple dryers, one solely to apply finish, and then 1 or 2 or 4, like the 4 wall mount that we're going to give away here in a little bit, to let it dry.
Yep.
So, don't, very long-winded, but don't fret if like you see the 9 is out of stock and we only have the 18s, or the 18s are out of stock and you only have the 9. I don't even know why that there's 2 of them, to be honest with you. I mean, if I would buy the 18 maybe over the 9, but I have all of them.
Yeah.
Like you just use it interchangeably. It's not that much different. So, yeah.
Let's do, you good on questions?
I mean, we got plenty, but yeah, I'm good for right now.
I want to hit the epoxy mixer because
Yeah,
that's
please.
such an overlooked piece of equipment. A lot of people look at the epoxy mixer and they say, "Oh, I don't need that.
gonna mix some new
That's
finish."
overkill, this and that." But then they struggle with their, mixing of epoxy,
thing's been
or
getting
they struggle with making sure their mixtures are right, or not having bubbles in their epoxy. This epoxy mixer will be your best friend. Not only is it extremely easy to use, you mix up your epoxy in one of these disposable cups, you pop it in here, it will accommodate different size cups. There's also, I don't have it up here on the table, there's also a metal mixing rod that you pop in the cup. Of course, you turn the epoxy mixer on, which I can do that for you. And
I don't think I dropped that one.
you let it sit for 5 minutes or so, even up to 10. Because the great thing about this epoxy mixer is it is going to, your pot life isn't going to be harmed too much. Obviously, once this starts mixing and incorporating, and it's gonna kick, as we refer to it. But it's not gonna set up in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You can let this go for a little bit of time, and it's gonna give you a perfectly mixed epoxy or thread finish without any bubbles. It's going to be incorporated perfectly. You're not going to have any issues at all. It's that easy. So don't overlook the epoxy mixer. It's so easy to
You
use.
think it's like, I don't need that, or like, that's too fancy for me.
Yeah.
And then you get it and you're like, man, that's great.
Yeah, I've seen some of y'all's epoxy at home. It's it could use a little work. Epoxy mixer can help that.
Zing.
Yeah, well,
I know, right?
it's fact.
It really is.
But no, it's if I had to
And I will say, not to cut you off,
go for it.
but I like to. Ken said, I really like the epoxy mixer, and he finds he gets more pot life while using it.
There you go.
And he is exactly right.
Exactly right. what I was going to say is, if I were to, pick apart, say, 2 or 3 of the most common epoxy issues,
Yeah.
I would put probably my top 3, top 5, whatever. Inaccurate measurements. That's one.
Oh, yeah.
That's way up there. Not mixing properly, which those two are, they're right back to back. You do one and then you do the other. Those two, and then using too much epoxy on your thread wraps or your decal. Those 3, there's plenty of other ones, contaminants and all kinds of stuff that you go into, but those 3, if you can nail down those 3 or avoid those 3 issues,
Yeah.
you're gonna save yourself a lot of headaches with thread finish. And again, like I said, there's other things to worry about, contaminants, stuff on your fingers making its way onto the rod blank or the decal or the thread.
Yeah.
Could go down the list, but
Set that over there in there for
in
me.
the cup?
Yeah, I don't know. Is this the right size? Well, the only reason is Nate's FN rods that we see him in here all the time. He had a really good question. How many cc's of epoxy can you mix in that mixer? Is the tilt restrictive? I get what you're saying. How we got a lot of room there, don't
at
we?
least half. At least
Okay.
half more.
So-
if not actually a lot more than that, probably.
Okay, so we have 6 cc's of finish in there.
You
So
can
we did
go a
3
lot more.
and 3. And it's not even close.
See how much you can put in there.
To be well, I don't want to mess it up.
Uh,
And to be honest, you can adjust that tilt a little bit. It is a
bit.
metal stand, and you can push it down a little. No, you can like flex it.
I don't want to. We broke enough
Flex
stuff.
that a little bit.
Oh,
I know,
this,
I
yeah.
know. Or you can prop the front up a little bit to
Yeah.
take. Now, you want a little tilt, okay?
Yeah.
So like it's at maybe 45-degree angle there. You don't want it to be like perfectly up and down, because the magic of that thing is that big lead like cylinder that sits in there that has a little stick, it scrapes the sides and it doesn't tumble in there, because if it tumbled, it's like when you fold in something and when you're baking and you add air in it, and it's like, we don't want to do that. So the tilt is there for a few reasons, but you can cheat a little bit. Cheat a little on the tilt, and this is a total of 6 cc's. And you can kind of see like where I'm at on that. You could probably, I would say you could go to 12.
I think you double it. Yeah.
I think you could go to 12 and still not.
And I
still
want to
not
say,
average.
don't quote me. I want to say this thing accepts the 5 or 5.5 size cups.
Oh, so you can go
So
taller?
the bigger one, like the double that size.
Yeah.
But
I
I'm
can't
not
remember.
100% sure
Yeah.
on that, so I might be
But I
inaccurate.
think, Nate, you got quite of a bit to go. I am building a regular inshore rod, a fly rod, a regular bass rod with 6 cc's, and I got finish left over. So I mean, I'm not running out of finish with that amount. So yeah, if you need more, have at it. And you got room, so you're not gonna spill over. I am going to show you guys something that is a real quick, a little bit of a pet peeve of mine as we go here. I promised that I would touch on this. Okay, real quick on this guide wrap, I put this one. Which one did I just mix? Can we get a quote? What? This one?
There's nothing in
This one doesn't look mixed. This one's mixed. Did anybody notice?
Nope.
Anyway, all right. One of the issues that I see with a lot of people is they get a bubble under here, okay? What happens is you're not working from the point of the foot out this way. This one? This epoxy was the one I just mixed? There was one here and one here. This one. We sure about that?
Doesn't look mixed.
No, it was this one. Because this one, it looked like I scraped the sides on it. Anyway, what we do not want to do is we don't want to start here in the center. It doesn't matter. It's not like we're going to use it, but I know. Thanks, Phil. All right. So, and I'm going to show you this because I'm using.
This is one of those don't do this at home.
Yeah, non-color preserver thing. Don't start out here, okay? Because I know I've like seen people's mind work and be like, well, I don't want to start on the edge, and I want to make sure that like I get plenty of finish here in the center, and so you can watch it starts to soak in, right? You can watch it change color. Let me turn this a little bit. See here on the guide foot, it's starting to kind of change. And then right there, you can see up here on the top, it's lighter, right? Right on the edge of that foot. That means that the finish hasn't gotten down to the blank yet, okay? The issue is going to be if we wall this off, which we've walled it off now. And if it's like, oh, okay, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start adding finish down here. Can you guys hear them downstairs? Is that coming through the... If you're not careful, you're going to pinch a bubble down here on the end. And it's like you can see it forming. If you notice that you are starting to get a bubble, like honestly, immediately stop what you're doing and get your torch. Because if you thin this epoxy out, will we not put a plastic bag around this thing? We thin this epoxy out. It's going to make it really thin, and you see it's sagging and dripping off, right? It's going to make it really thin, and it's going to wick all the way to the guide foot. Now, the other thing that I see people do a lot, and I really hate it, is they run their thread. You know, here's a guide wrapping tutorial, right? So now we're putting too much finish, which is not typically the end of the world. But this is when things kind of start to jump off. All right, so we're cutting our line. We're adding too much finish. Should have put it in that foil dish. And when you're working on the back side of your guide, if your thread is all the way up to the upright, and you have too much finish, you're going to get like the turtleneck effect that I say. That's what I call it. I don't know what it's called. But you're going to have this finish start to walk up here. You see that big bulge that's behind it? And it's only going to get worse, okay? If you see it right now, you can take a toothpick or like an index card or something, and you can start to remove a little bit of that, okay? Otherwise, the finish is going to continue to like turtleneck and choke that. That's why every single time I get the question that says, do you do a locking wrap on your guides? I do not. I do not do any locking wraps on any of my guides. It's just, I've never had a guide pull out on offshore rods, inshore rods. And if I did, it was because it was like not during fishing. It was like you get hung on something and it's a big problem. Okay. We don't have guides coming out from under here. Now, what you can do here is I always make sure to hold the thread back a little bit from that guide foot. Because the good thing about rod finish is, if you create a hard edge on that rod finish, unless you force it over that edge, or unless you have a very unlevel situation, as long as you draw a sharp line, the rest of the rod finish is not going to overtake that line. So I like to be able to cut an edge between the edge of my thread and the upright where the guide comes up, right? I like to be able to create an edge there, and then as the finish fills in underneath the foot, it can come back, everything meets up nicely, and I have no reason for the finish to wick up the neck of the guide, up the upright, okay? So you can kind of see it here on this one. Come over to this guide. It's tough to see, but this one, if you can imagine, it's about a 1/16 of an inch on this one. The thread is about a 1/16 of an inch before it turns and goes upright. So that's a spot there that it allows you to lay an edge of finish to where you can jump the edge on your threads, but not jump the edge on your thread to the point where you're touching this upright. So that's something that I know people have issues with. I had it when I first started building fishing rods and was like, why am I doing that? And I think your dad or Kurt or somebody was like, your thread's too far. So there you go.
There you go.
Your thread's too far.
Good stuff.
It's almost 8 o'clock. Let's give something away.
Yeah, let's do it.
And then we need to set up this other one kind of quick.
All right, let's do giveaway number 2 of the night. We're going to do a CRB vertical wall mount 4-rod dryer. So if any of you guys at home are building several rods at a time and struggling to have some additional rod dryers to put all of your rods in while they spin some epoxy, this 4-rod dryer is the perfect answer. And it's wall mountable, which I am a big fan of.
Yeah, especially if you're low on space.
Gets it off your table. All right, let's run that giveaway tool and see who we got. And Justin B.
Uh-oh. Is that you? Is that where you went? Did you leave and go eat a Hot Pocket and enter the giveaway?
Stand by for that last name. Let's see who we got.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Justin Boyer. Justin Boyer.
It's too easy.
Was that out of, I haven't been keeping up. Were we out of Facebook or YouTube? I'm not sure.
You're not paying attention at all tonight, are you?
Hey, you're the one working this iPad over here.
No.
Anyways, congrats, Justin. Great prize there. CRB vertical wall mount 4-rod dryer. Chris is switching out to a new blank here. What we got next? Next demo is going to be about different tools to apply your finish.
I just want to show the spatula here kind of real quick. Okay. Try not to keep you all forever tonight. How are we doing on questions? Do we need to answer any questions before we move on? You know how to get to the pinned ones? And they're in the top right.
Let's see what we got. What do we got? Scroll down. Scroll down.
Coming up in here for the close-up, huh?
How about 85 degrees? Is that too hot to?
No.
That's a good question.
I'm not saying anything is like too hot. I mean, you can get a little.
What's the absolute
Oh, you know what?
lowest temp that you'd recommend?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good
and
one.
then I saw a question in there. Somebody was asking and saying like, hey, my basement gets...
Watch out. Santa's trying to get out of here for the night.
So we're going to have to cancel Christmas there for a second.
Is that a sign? I think we got to go.
Yeah, all right. Well, see you guys later. All right, so in terms of if your basement only gets to about 60. Now, I haven't used this trick a whole heck of a lot because I live in South Florida. But we have sort of used it vicariously, like through somebody that's tested it. If you put rod finish on it, let's say 60 or 64 or something, put it on and let it, try to get it to cure, right? Now, granted, we do have a tent, and, you know, sometimes people have like tried to warm it and stuff. If you don't think it's completely cured out, and it's to the point where it's not gonna sag off, because sometimes you can get an epoxy to where it will cure to where, and I say cure's not right. You can get it to set up almost completely and be completely cured out to where it's not going to, you know, drag off. But if you walked up and touched it, you're like, that's not fully done. If you can then bring it up into the house where it's 68 or 70, or there are times where you can put it in your truck, park your truck in the sun, create a greenhouse. We've done that before here in Florida. It was actually more because like we were trying to like go fishing with it later that day, and we needed to try to cure it out. So we were like, we took it out to the truck after it was like almost done, and then left it in the truck. The truck got to, I don't know, probably 100. Now granted, the truck's not going to get to 100 if your house is only at 60, but it'll get quite warm in there. So you can do that. Or bring it up into the house and, you know, get it to cure out. But if you can get it to where it's higher temp, curable temps after, even hours after, you can still make it cure out.
Yeah.
So I know that that's not like super helpful, but if you put it in the truck, if you can get it in the truck and let the sun beat on it and heat that truck up, it'll cure out, promise you. Okay. So spatulas. The times that I use spatulas are when I'm going over like long under wraps, and I do kind of use them in conjunction with brushes at times. This is a really good time when, Nate, you were talking about how much finish can you mix and things like that. I am someone that always puts finish over their under wraps before we wrap another guide. It doesn't matter if you are using, doesn't matter if you're using A or D over A or what. If you're putting finish on it, you're fine. So I need to go to speed here, sir.
Gotcha.
So what I typically do is, you also remember that we don't always have to cut an edge with an under wrap. Or if you're doing a decorative thread wrap and you're going to be adding trim bands and other layers and other stuff, but you want to add, you know, some finish before you add another piece of finish or a bit of finish. I will take it and I will do this under speed. I haven't done it in a while, so bear with me. What do you think that is? A couple hundred? I don't know.
Couple of hundred, of course.
So I will actually go through and, you know, I will take back what I said earlier about like taking and putting a brick on this foot pedal. If I have a bunch of under wraps here, I will do that with this because I want it to be like kind of fast, and I will add finish like this.
Now you're just showing off.
No, I'm not showing off. I'm going to create a mess is what I'm
I was
going to do.
going to say, yeah.
So I'll put it like this, and I'm not going to ruin this under wrap too. But I'll set it. If you do this and it's too fast, you're going to wear it. And again, I have no idea how fast I'm going here, but I will so that I don't have to do this, start and stop and start and stop and go down the whole thing. I will take a little clamp or put a book on my pedal, spin it up fast, and I'll go mix more finish than 6, because I'll probably mix up 12. And if I have 8 or 9 guides with under wraps, I will go down and go boom, 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 the whole thing. And then I will come back in and I will use a spatula. And once I put it on there, I will increase it. And you got to be careful. This is like a 2-hand job. I know. You get too much on there and it will sling it. Again, I haven't done this in a while, so bear with me. And the changeover there, and you can't take that spatula off if you're going fast. It'll sling it. So to change it back that way is always a little bit of a, I just don't have the touch. Now, also, spatula like this, if you rotate your spatula like this, you can kind of corral it a little bit. What you don't want to do is be doing this. If you do this, do you see the bubbles I created? So don't do that, right? So be very mindful about your how much finish you have on there, because see, I almost got crazy and slung it off. But if you start picking up and putting this spatula down, you are going to create bubbles and you're going to create a problem. So that is why if I am using a spatula, it's because I'm doing it in I go from this one to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and I'm kind of doing it kind of quickly. And as we go through it, I will then come back in with a brush and some heat, and then we're going to go from there and let it cure out. That's more just because if I did this with a brush and covered this length, what's going to end up happening is, go me back to drawing. I know that was a little herky-jerky, but I hope you guys kind of get the idea. I'm using a spatula when I'm going over multiple thread wraps, longer distances, and I don't feel like going finish to finish to, I got to mix another finish, I got to mix another one, things like that. Now, once you get it all on there and it's set, I will come in with, you're going to do heat, and you're going to do your brush, things like that, because the brush will help it smooth out. But getting it all on there, getting it all coated, the spatula is pretty darn fast, and you're not having to wait for stuff. And then the spatula is great because it's reusable. I can just take it and set it off to the side, and I don't have to worry about if I didn't clean the spatula, I can come back and just flake the finish off and use it next time.
Yep.
So,
and we got those spatulas in a 4-piece set, which is cool because there's different.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna
go right back up there.
Yeah.
It's got a few different heads you can use.
If you're gonna cut an edge, that one that's a little sharp.
Yeah,
is
a
kind
little
of nice.
spade style.
I was just kind of pushing it around with that.
Yeah. So
and they do have they come to almost like a guide foot prep. They kind of, the one I was using slopes a little bit down to the edge. So they're not razor sharp pointed, but they are pointed. Now, if you don't want to use a spatula and you are a 100% brush person, we do have the red sable brushes in a couple different sizes. You get wider bristles, and that will help you push extra finish around. But again, be very careful because it's super easy when you're going from one to the next and one to the next and moving through. It's very easy to start adding bubbles into it. So that's why I like using the spatula, and when I'm covering large distances, because it's not the final coat, and I can just come back in, I can hit it with heat, I can take all the bubbles out and just put a perfectly little skim coat on it, make it nice and glassy. The thinner that finish is, the less even chance of bubbles you're going to get. But don't just do this and walk away. If you have a lot of finish, or if you have a long stretch of thread like that, the thread can hold little air bubbles too. So let it get itself in, come back in with all the heat, and then before you walk away from it, do like a once over. But like I said, I don't use a spatula a whole heck of a lot. I know some people don't use them at all. If you want to do it, you could certainly use a spatula on guide feet and other stuff. I don't, but it's certainly doable.
Yeah, handy tool to have.
Yeah, it makes it easy for covering large distances, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Cool. All right, let's do what we got next here. I think we got some questions to answer. You want to take that back over?
you want to just go like right to rapid fire?
I think so.
Because there's like 50. Because Nate said, do we ever use the high quality brushes and clean them or just use the disposables? Nate, as I had said before, I'm just not, I don't do some of the art that some of y'all do. I'm using disposable brushes, honestly. Like, I do like the larger brush if I'm putting over large thread wraps and things like that. It does make
like
it
this,
nicer.
What size is this? The size 10?
Yeah, but I'm using...
I don't know what inch that is, but...
That one is a 12. Like, I'm using a big, very nice brush if I'm doing stuff like that. But outside of that, I'm just using disposables. I use the 1/4 inch yellow ones. So anyway. All right, so we're going to do rapid fire Q&A. Did you guys change the title, though? Okay. I thought they were trying to mess with me earlier. They're always trying to, like, pull a fast one on Hunter and I, but, you know, we try to pay attention. All right. Hit me with that rapid fire Q&A before we start here. You put 7 minutes on it? All right. Rapid fire Q&A. All right, Hunter, let's go to a, can you elaborate on the impact that color preserver has when adding epoxy afterwards? Seems like there are some different opinions in the rod building world.
There's a lot of mixed feelings, especially when it relates to color preserver on thread wraps for your guides. That's where I feel like the biggest concern, controversy comes in.
Do you have a hard opinion on it?
Yeah, I use regular nylon thread and don't worry about color preserver.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, but color preserver has its place, especially in decorative wraps, especially with things like snakeskin. You know, color preserver and feathers. In essence, color preserver is a type of glue, right? Like,
pretty much.
Kind of what it is.
Yeah. You're not going to glue a handle with it.
No, not structurally, but
yeah.
You know, if you're using it to, you know, keep things in place like feathers or snakeskin, you know, things like that, or if you're using it to, you know, make sure your nice, very intricate diamond or chevron keeps its place.
Yep.
Or if you're using things like Madeira thread,
that's the requirement. That's where the requirement comes in, because for those that don't know, Madeira thread is a sewing thread, not a rod building thread, and it has a coating on it so that it flies through a sewing machine.
Yeah.
That coating sometimes reacts with epoxy and creates fish eyes. So that's why when we say that it's required for that, it's kind of required for that.
All right.
But other than that,
Moving
on. How about this? Can you do a coat of permagloss and then he says promote over top? I'm sure it's about pro coat, but
that's a really good question.
I've tried it. You can.
You can?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say I wouldn't recommend it because I've never tried it.
Yes,
but if
I've
you tried it, then go for it.
You can do permagloss and then you can come over the top with any of the finishes. You'll be fine. Best viscosity epoxy for decals.
Ooh. Light build. I'm just going to say that.
Yep.
Because with decals specifically, again, I'm going to reference new rod builders, not veterans or intermediate builders. For new rod builders, multiple thin coats, especially for decals, is the ticket with a low build epoxy.
Yes. I like the low build, as he said. It flows better. I like the finish to have more of a flow to it, especially when you're dealing with going from vinyl to graphite or fiberglass or whatever. When you're going over multiple mediums, I want the finish to flow the best that it possibly can without having to add just more heat to it or something like that. Let's see. Whoops. Let's try this. Okay. I see people putting heat when marbling. Is that to melt it a little and work the epoxy painted or harden the epoxy faster?
Yeah. Be very careful. Let me start with that.
Yeah.
Anytime you're talking about marbling and heat or flame, be cautious. you want to use it at the appropriate time, meaning you want to get your, your epoxy, your marbling pigments all set where you like them. And if you do, I would advise against using heat, because what's going to happen is if that epoxy is not, towards the final stages of being set, you hit it with a flame, it's going to spread. Not only the epoxy, but all of your nice marbling that you just created is going to spread everywhere.
Because your marbling is just colored epoxy in epoxy. So, and just for good measure, John's last question regarding color preserver, it was with an epoxy finish afterwards. Any issues with penetration to the blank when doing guide wraps? That's our beef with it. When I've cut guides off, I have personally seen, Bob also, he's with me on this one. I've seen less epoxy penetration to the rod blank, which I feel the bond is not as good when you use color preserver. We'll put that to bed. That's over. Done. But I had to get it. Let's see. The hand rest is a savior. Too much coffee gets my hand shaking like a leaf in the breeze. No doubt. Put a little, make it an Irish coffee and see. Maybe that'll get you.
Even you out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Brandon, can you fix bumps after it dries? You absolutely can. You can come back in and sand it, but you got to be careful. It has to be very cured. Like, don't come in, if you hit it with sandpaper and it is not rock hard, it's going to gum up on you, and then you're going to have a major problem. So make sure it is fully rock solid before you touch it with sandpaper, and you can come in with sandpaper. Don't use like 80 grit. Start with something in like the low 200s or something, and just go careful, okay? Run the power wrapper very high, use very little pressure, and you will do good. Same with like I always say with like the cutting tool, the inletting tool, things like that. Run the drill, run the power wrapper as fast as it'll run, and then you don't have to use as much pressure, but you want a high RPM. Let's see. Al, yes, how about using a heat gun? You can totally use a heat gun.
Yeah.
The only thing that I don't like about the heat gun is that the heat gun is blowing stuff around.
Yep.
So depending on your workshop and how tidy you keep it, you might blow things into your rod finish. Now, I will say it's not a guarantee, and it's really not as big of a problem as I'm making it out to be. But it can happen. And just also be careful with it. Run it on the low setting. Make sure not to stand right on it, just like you will with a torch, but it's the same thing. And you don't even need a heat gun. You can get away with a hairdryer. Just, be understanding that it's moving air through it, and there's particles in the air, and, whatever. Let's see. Chris, yes, you can use heat on fiberglass blanks, but just be careful. You don't need as much heat on your finish as you would to like melt the fiberglass. So just keep in mind, like, you don't need that much. You can get right up on it and blow just 98.6 degrees right out of your mouth and be just fine. You don't need, super high heat. Let's see. Whoa. Is a stiffer brush better for tighter lines? Yeah. I always say you do your best work with a stiff brush for sure. That's why I cut the edges a little bit and they don't splay bad on you. I think you can get a tighter edge on that. Let's see. I know we've ended here, but there's just a bunch that, let's see. We covered some of those. Oh, let me hit this one real quick. What's the minimum CCs to mix?
Oh, that's a good one.
So there are no minimums that say like the epoxy won't mix properly. The issue is if you take like 1 cc and 1 cc and you put it in a cup that is this big, there's too much room in the cup to get a good mixture, okay? You want enough volume in this cup so that as you mix it, you're not like whisking it and creating scrambled eggs. Okay, I know you guys were a little slow on the trigger. It's 8:19. I know. Figured I had held it up there long enough. We're good. So if you can use a smaller mixing cup, you can get away with smaller amounts of finish. It's mainly like, I would venture to say I've tried to do like 1.5 cc's of each, so 3 total. And it's flirting with disaster. Like, it really is. Because I use heat so much when I'm doing it, I know that, like, even if I mix in bubbles, I'm going to take them out later. And especially if I'm just doing a guide repair, you know, I might whisk it up, throw a bunch of bubbles in there, put it in a foil dish, heat the foil dish and burn all the bubbles out of it and put it and be done with it. Like, I don't recommend doing it that way.
Do as we say, not as we do.
Yeah, so I mean, it's you can get away with it. Just, you have to understand that you're going to introduce a bunch of bubbles, possibly, the less amount of finish you use. So, let's see. Do we know if altitude affects it at all? Somebody said,
I would be surprised. I also saw a lot of comments about humidity.
yeah.
Which I can't say for certain.
can't
This is
either.
just anecdotal. I don't think humidity really causes much issue. And I say that because
Now,
we
it does
live
with permagloss.
with permagloss, sure. But with just regular 2-part epoxies,
yeah.
we live in Florida. So we're on the high humidity side of things, which, again, I don't really
Yeah.
think it affects it that much. Now, maybe you go the opposite end and there's, lack of humidity, maybe. But
Yeah, I think that's what I think the lack of humidity is maybe what they're doing, because I've never had, I don't know, like, I don't know if I ever am in an area that has less than 70% humidity, like,
right.
on the regular.
That's just what we live in.
Yeah, and yet my hair still looks great. No, I mean, I don't really know, but I don't think so. I think it's very temperature driven. I think at like a very small level, it might affect it a little bit, but I just don't really think it's enough to notice it. I think if you mix your epoxy properly and accurately and you cure it in the right temperature,
Temperatures, yeah. That's the number one factor.
because it doesn't, I don't think it cures any faster with more humidity, so I don't think it cures any less with less humidity, but
Yeah.
temperature for sure.
For sure.
Or just the fact that you just don't mix it right. Yeah, Bill Tucker jumped in and said 2 cc each is okay. Bill, I would agree with that. That is about as
Yeah.
minimum
That's a good
as
rule
I
of
do,
thumb.
at least in these mixing cups.
Yeah.
I try to stay at 2. 1.5 is tough, but it can be done. But 2, I think you're still pretty good. I think we're good.
Cool.
What do we think? Huh?
I saw there was a comment question in there, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because I think I've said this for 6 episodes now. Number 1 pro tip. This is going to surprise some of y'all. Number 1 pro tip I have for applying finish or just epoxy related to rod building. After you're done with your mixing cup, don't throw it away.
Oh, this is a good one. That is a good one.
Save it till the next day, so when you come back in and you got your brush and it's in your mixing cup, you can use this as your tester instead of going up to your rod and poking your finish or, hey, is that tacky? And then if it is, you got a fingerprint in your epoxy now. Don't do that. Check your mixing cup and your brush first. If they look like they're set up and they're good to go, then you're good. If they're not, and it's still liquid or it's still very tacky, then you know that, maybe there's an issue or it still needs longer to dry. But you won't be messing with your wraps or your decal on your rod. You'll only be messing with your mixing cup. So I'll leave you with that.
Yep, and somebody mentioned that in here, and we also had somebody say, I dried a rod in my vehicle during a 6-hour drive home in the middle of a Minnesota winter. Just had the heat cranked up. So
That works?
sweat it out, sweat it out, but get it done. That's awesome. I think that is about it, and we are,
Oh yeah, we're
Yeah.
over.
hour and 50 in. We need to get out of here, otherwise they're gonna. Hey, it's the last one of the year. Come on, it's the last one of the year.
All right.
I know you guys are really hanging around to try to win that RBS Pro Power Wrapper, so let's go ahead and
Let's do it.
Still awake, Uncle Phil?
Lots of enthusiasm.
Yes.
All right, let's run it. Last giveaway of 2024.
Nothing like getting to Mudhole at 8:30 in the morning and staying here all the way until 8:30 at night. Am I right, guys?
8:30. I was here at 7.
Come on. Yeah, that's my choice.
Wayne M. All right, Wayne.
Ooh, this
Let's
could
see
be
what that
good.
last name is.
This could be good.
Stand by, stand by, stand by. And it is Wayne McDonald. Wayne McDonald. Congrats, Wayne. One of the best prizes of the entire year here on Mudhole Live. I see it. No, RBS G2 Power Wrapper. Excellent, excellent prize
Nice.
to end our last episode of the year.
Can't believe this will be 2025.
I know.
Holy cow. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us. We still have 405 people with us. We appreciate y'all. Hopefully you had just an absolutely wonderful Thanksgiving and that your holidays are going great. You know, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We love it all. We had Steve in the war room tonight. Cool man. Kevin and Hoffma were helping us out remote. Patrick was in the building. That's right. We threw his feet to the fire tonight, and he did a great job. That's right. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. I heard you guys prepping him earlier today, and Cool Man was like, they just threw it. They just threw me in the middle. So, yeah, no, that's fantastic. Patrick, thank you, and welcome. Be careful. You're probably going to just get roped into it all the time now. Justin on the Zoom, as always. Uncle Phil on the ones and twos. Hunter McCamey is my left-hand man. We're going to see y'all for the first episode of 2025 on January 21st.
That's right. That sounds right.
At 6:30 Eastern, of course, we'll be back here in the penthouse for the new year, and we're going to walk through, since everybody bought a G2 Power Wrapper for the holidays, we're going to get all kinds of tools and stuff out on this. We're going to talk about turning grips, cleaning grips, power wrapping, we did power finishing tonight. But we're gonna talk about everything Pro G2. We even saw the question in there saying that, hey, I just bought one, I got my power wrapper, and you know, I need a few tips and tricks on it.
We got a lot of
So
those.
we're gonna walk through all of the tips and tricks and do some cool stuff under power. Yeah, we got a lot of cool things for that one. That's episode 118 on the 21st of January at 6:30 Eastern, 2025. Again, thank you guys very much for joining us. Have a wonderful and safe holiday. Merry Christmas. You got anything? Where are you going? You going home?
Going home, Tennessee for a couple days.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Nice and
I'm
cold.
staying in Florida. Staying in Florida. All right. We'll see y'all in January. Have a wonderful and safe new year as well. We'll see y'all for 118 in 2025.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.